All right, what's happening, everybody? It's me, Robert Phoenix, and we are back for another edition of Sunday Night Astrolive, and I'm joined tonight by the Sunday Night Astrolive stand-in, Miss Peachy. I think Jasper is recovering from the Jet visitation. So Jet came over this weekend. Jet is cute little kitten that Joan has adopted and happens to be a really good traveler. And I think Jasper got depressed. You know, I think he got a little depressed by this young cat. And I think he thinks he's like getting phased out or something. And I gotta have a talk with him. I got to tell him, you know, Jasper, I know just how you feel when I go to the gym. And I see all these young dudes getting pumped up. And I'm feeling like you, man. I'm feeling like you around Jet. Hey, you want to come over here? Come on. Did you eat her food? Did you eat her food? You come over here. Anyway, he'll be okay. He'll rebound. He's made of sturdy stuff. How is everybody? How are you? Peachy. Who's Joan? Lovely. Joan is sitting right above you. right above you. Right above you. Yeah. So we had a little gathering of the tribes last night. And I thought it would, you know, for the most part, I thought it went pretty well. Peachy wanted to be maternal to Jet, but they hadn't quite figured out the roles. They're sorting out their roles. Roles are very important in relationships. Maybe they'll get there. Fingers crossed, right? Okay. You know what I need to do? I need to whip up kind of a chart of the moment thing for us. That would be very helpful to go over. Am I right? I'm right. I am right. Let's see, what do we have here? Yes. Let me do this. Give me 1 second. Just clarify a few chart things. And we will be off and running. Okay, there we go. Here we go. All right. Let me do this. You coming up here, man? You coming up here? Come on. People want to see you. Old times. Come on. They want to see the original Astro Cat. There we go. Come on over. Here he is. Let me bring you in here. Everybody wants to see the original Astro Cat. He's got a bit of a bad back. But there he is, the original Astro Cat. Yeah, you're still in the game, aren't you? You're still in the game. That's right. We all love you. Yeah. You're still an important astrological influence. There you go. That's right. Channeling that Astral Cat energy. Okay, let me just pull this off the desktop. Let's do a little chart of the moment here. Let me just flip this. We'll go with this. We got Cinco de Mayo tomorrow, don't we? Yeehaw. Or shall I say, ole, viva? Wouldn't be real yeehaw. Unless you're in Texas, because there are people of Hispanic persuasion who might just give us a little yeehaw. We might get a little shout out in Texas with a yeehaw. from the Corona community. Let's put it that way. Although most of the Mexican dudes that I see, like at HEB, buying a shit ton of beer and water and Gatorade because they work outside and they're fucking hot all day. Most of the Mexican dudes I see buy Bud Light. They don't drink the Mexican beers. It's the yuppies. It's the white yuppies that drink the Mexican beers. That's just and I'm sure in Mexico they do. I see these guys in the grocery store. The kind of Bud Light now. Just saying. Okay. All right. I got all my charts lined up. Thanks for being here and appreciate your patience. Let's see. Who do we have in the house? Dang, I could really go for Corona with lime. Mexican beer sucks. we got a beer combo going on in chat. I think some Mexican beer is actually good. I'll tell you the Mexican beers that I like this one called Estrella. That's pretty good. I also like Dos Equis Dark. The Dos Equis Dark, even though it's probably caramel coloring, I still like it. And then they have, what is it? Is it Esta Noche or Noche Buena? It's Esta Noche. It's a Christmas beer, essentially. I kind of like that one. Those are my three favorite Mexican beers. Although I have been known to drink a Carta Blanca or two every now and then. All right, Modelo and Tecate. There we go. We got some beer talk. Let's just go through here. Let's see what we have before we get into tonight's show. We got Mr. Michael Sternino. He's right there. Healing Heart Rosie. There she is, a lovely and talented one. The mother of the little goofball jet. Glima Spank. Hi, Glima. Ms. Behaving too. Good Wiki Theater. Hey, Bo. Good to see you. Susan's here. California Contrarian. Still ticking away. Good to see you. Jamie. Jamie from south of the border. T. Jordan's literally in the house. Jackie Delario. Katie Cat. Barbara Boots. Secession. Meaning to withdraw. Oh, yes. Thank you. Barbara, you're always good for a... I'll have to redo that now, won't I? Why don't I just redo it in real time? Barbara should have been an editor. It is Secession. I don't know why I had the Secession in there. Maybe there's something going on in my brain. Let's see. I wonder if I can redo this in real time. That would be helpful. That would help my credibility, wouldn't it? All right, hold on. Let's see. That'd be right. Is that it? No. Hold on. It's going to be right there. Right there. Huh? Come on. Come on. Oh, all right. Oh. Oh, damn it. Hold on. Now I'm having a Virgo moment. I'm having a Virgo moment. There's that one. There's that one. How come these got removed? That's weird. How got removed? Oh. Hold on. All right, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to wait. I'll wait till after the show so that nobody notices. Nobody except for Barbara. Okay. Damn it! Now I want to find it. I'm having a OCD moment. All right, hold on. I don't know where they've taken. All Here we go. Projects. Where's my projects? Well, this is the one that I originally wanted to use, and it got zapped. I'm going to do this. This is the one that I was originally going to use, and I'm just going to come in here right now, and I'm going to do just a quick edit. Look at this. Look what I'm going to do. Yeah, I'm going to do a quick edit right here. And then I will come back and I will fix this thing by the end of the show. There we go. All right. Hold on. I just want to change the thumbnail. No, I don't want to do that. Oh, shit. Okay. I'm just going to have to play it as it lies, as they say. I just want to change the thumbnail, dude. That's all I want to do. That's not it. Okay, so I'm just going to have to go in and do it in post. But thanks, Barbara, for bringing that to my attention. Let's get out of here. Let's get out of this edit live stream. Okay, so but that's really going to be the topic of the day or the evening, which is secession, secession, versus succession, which means something completely different. It means to succeed somebody. Anyway, and I should have known that. So we're going to get into it tonight, and part of what we're going to talk about, or how we're going to talk about things, is we're going to have an adult conversation. It's not you guys. You guys are great. But when I was with David on Tuesday night, it was a really interesting experience because I generally don't get a lot of what I would call cancel culture caterwaul during a live show. Or in general. And on Tuesday night, that's what I was getting. It was like racist, bigot, whatever. And then people were saying, get off this topic, change the subject. My sense, or my feeling of people that have an absolute lack of intellectual curiosity shocked me. Like I was stunned because, again, maybe it's because I feel like sometimes we're in a bit of a bubble here, because I think for the most part we all speak the same language. And then, somebody pricks the bubble. It's like, oh yeah, there are those people out there who can't have an adult conversation about something because they're triggered and they don't want somebody to bring something up inside of them that makes them feel uncomfortable. And that's what was going on Tuesday night. And I've been doing this for a long time, and I've had moments where people have hit me with blowback, pushback, whatever, and I'm not not afraid, or I haven't gone into the breach, or I've gone into the scrum. I've gone into the digital scrum, as it were. So it's not like it's something that I've gone out of my way to avoid, but it's just something that over time, you kind of send a signal out, and the people that are receptive to the signal are the ones that show up. Like you're dialing into a station that you want to tune into. You'll skip over some other station. Maybe you don't like the music. Maybe you don't like all the commercials that get played. But this is basically how I see life in general. Like we're all broadcasting signals, and you're going to attune or tune into the one that makes the most sense or appeals to you the most, right? And the early days of Facebook, I went out of my way to make sure that if I posted something controversial and somebody took issue with it, I went out of my way to have a fair conversation about something that they didn't agree with or it rubbed them the wrong way. And this was like maybe my first 6 months on Facebook. And then I realized it's a fucking waste of time. It's just a waste of time because I may have been able to assuage my moral conscience by just not deleting them. Ultimately, that's what I wound up doing because it was a waste of time. It's like, okay, I don't need to try to spoon feed people, assuage their little egos or whatever they've got going on, or their limited kind of global view or historical perspective or whatever it is. Like, catch me outside, like get up to speed and then come on over, because there are a bunch of other people that I can have a discussion with and they get it, they understand it. And I don't have to massage, the trauma, the rough edges, the trigger points. I don't have to do that. And for me, it was really liberating when I made that decision. It's like, no. And I would give people a chance, right? It wasn't like I was just some digital dictator, taking them out to the gulag of deletion. But after a while, there's just a point of diminishing returns on those kinds of interactions. So again, it was very unusual to have to kind of deal with that. And so for those of you who are here who can't have an adult conversation about where we're going to go tonight, ultimately, there's other places for you to go. Okay, there's other places, other channels for you to get a cosmological view that might feel nicer or safer. And I don't say that with any kind of anger or rancor. I'm just being serious. And this is kind of like life in general. If a place doesn't fit for you, then go somewhere else. It's not that hard. It's just not that hard. If it's not a fit, just go out. I mean, how many times have you felt that? Like sometimes it's so easy. If you go to a restaurant, so I run off instinct a lot because I'm a 2-4 projector, splenic. And so if I go to a place and it doesn't feel right, I leave. Like that's just my gut instinct. If I go to a restaurant and I'm just like not feeling it, it's like, let's go. Let's get up and go. I don't have to sit here and go through the menu and try to figure out. And if I do, a lot of times I'm not happy with the choice of staying. Like, I should listen to this. It's really what it's all about. Now, are there times where you can be or should be challenged? Yeah, sure. Why not? Because you'll learn new things. And maybe that's what this stream could be about for somebody who might find something to be slightly objectionable or doesn't fit their worldview. Maybe if you stick around long enough, you might learn a few things, even though it might be uncomfortable. So that's ultimately where we're going to go. And I'm really like, as long as you're not completely, utterly shitting and hating on people in the chat, I'm not even paying attention most of the time. I have mods that are there that are watching the conversation, right? So the one thing that I will ask is when I get into this, feel free to say what you want to say, but remember there are repercussions for the things that you say, and it may not be the thought police knocking on your door, but it might be something that happens inside of chat that might be hot, uncomfortable, whatever. Just remember that. That's all I'm saying. Just be mindful of kind of where you go with tonight's topic, because it can trigger people in the other direction as well. And some of the things that I'm going to talk about are, again, it's what I would call it an adult astro cosmological physical discussion. And that's all I'll say about it. That's the last time I'll go there. Okay. Let's do a little True Hemp Science right here, right at the beginning of the show. Let's do a little astro weather. And then we're going to drop into the bulk of tonight's show. And after we do the astro weather, I'm going to start off with Alberta. And I think it's a really interesting topic of conversation. I think we have some interesting astrological touch points, data points. And then it's all connected. You'll see it's everything tonight is connected. And by the time we're done, you'll understand why. All right. So True Hemp Science is your one-stop shop for all things CBD. I got a whole bevy of products over here that I can show you. We have Synapta. We have Solara right there. Two of my favorites right there. We also have a little bit of Lumina right there. This is a G53. So this is Renew and Repair. And then Solara is Focus and Create. Focus and Create. And then lastly, we have Synapta, which is just pure brain focus right there. So maybe I'll have a little Synapta to help my synapses tonight. There we go. You got that nice little milky sort of texture right there on the tongue. A little Synapta. All right, we're ready to go. So all you got to do is spend $100 more at truehempscience.com. Type in 15MINS, 15MINS. You will get a goodie bag that is an order within an order, and you'll get some of the world famous gummies that come from True Hemp Science. And you will also get free shipping if you spend $150 more. Always a 30-day money-back guarantee. TrueHempScience.com. All right, let's do a little chart of the day. We'll get warmed up here, and then we will get into it. We're going to get into it. All right. Now I'm going to have to come in and then do a little share, but we'll hide the banner. There we go. And let's do this, and we'll do this, and we'll do that. But I know that StreamYard just shows a blank, so I will stop screen share. That's right. I will do that. And I will stop it here because this is what we have to do. Let me try it again. Let me see. Hold on. What we got here? There we go. And one more time with the screen share. I don't know why StreamYard is doing this, but I'm used to it now. All right. Do we have everything right? Oh, that's not the right one. See? Checking. 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 That was from the other day. There it is right there. Right. Okay. Here we go. We should be just fine now. All right. Let me go back and look. Aha. Perfecto. The eagle has landed. All right. Oh, shit. Hold on. Is it Mercury retrograde? Or am I just... do I just have my head elsewhere right now? I'm going to go with Mercury retrograde. Here we go. No, I'm going to go with I got my head elsewhere. It's not Mercury retrograde. All right. Chart of the moment. Take 3. Okay, we're getting off to a good start tonight. I got a misspelling on the thumbnail, and it's taking me 5 minutes to get this fucking chart up. All right, here we go. All right. Zooming in. It's so funny. Normally when we do this, it's at 8 in the morning on the Astro Weather, and that's what I had. But here it's 8 p.m. and you can literally see where the sun is on the opposite side of the chart. Normally when we do the Astro Weather, it's in the 12th house, and it's kind of a cool experience. It feels like we are in this early morning pocket 12th house, except for some of you maybe in another part of the world, in which case you're not. Well, you're in a different house, but you're there with us. But here we are. We're over here on the other side of the chart. So it's out in the open. We're naked. We're raw. We're not occulted or cloaked. And everything here is visible for all to see. And we are in a relationship in this moment, right? That is the nature of the sun here in the 7th house. We are now in the second decan of Taurus, puts it in the Virgo decan. A little more busy energy. Like this has been in the Virgo decan for the last 4 days. So we started talking about this on Thursday. And now is a time where your physical effort and labor, you need to have something to show for it. That's the nature of Virgo. Right. And it should be theoretically helpful. I think one of these nights, because we did a whole thing one time on the 12th house. And I think that really was appropriate and timely, particularly because the nodes were shifting. But I think one night we should just do a 6. I mean, it's not really sexy, but we should do a 6th house show. Because it's one of those houses like the 12th. When I saw those people who are more or less archetypal in the 12th house, it just grabbed my attention. I'm like, holy shit. Like there's a lot more going on in the 12th house than most people or most astrologers, or some astrologers, I wouldn't say most, but some astrologers would describe it as. Right. There's a lot more going on there, but you really have to sink into it deeply. The 6th house, everything is on the surface. It's all right there. It's all for us to see. But it's an incredibly important house in terms of astrology and life. Without the 6th house and without 6th house people, we would not get anything done. There'd be nothing done. People would just be floating around the 12th house. I don't know, eating sushi. But somebody have to make the sushi. So we'll do a 6th house show. It won't be super sexy. 6th house. But it's important. Right? If you have a 6th house sun, I salute you. Because it's not always the sexiest house. Unless you're Sun in Pluto and you're a sex worker, in which case maybe it is. But I think it's an important house. It's the world. Maybe we won't devote a whole show to it, but we'll devote some to it, right? And that might be that might be a good thing, just to do in general. Tell you what, why don't we do this? Because next week, 7 days, we'll still be in Taurus. Tell you what I'm going to do. Next week, I'm going to have a second house show. And I'm going to get into the second house, and I'll look at famous second house people. We'll just go around the wheel. So every month, so the missing house is Aries, but it's okay. It's okay. They know who they are. But we'll just do this, right? Every month, we'll just do a new house, a new sign. We'll do that. I think we'll do Taurus next week. And I'll figure out what we'll do. Gemini, we'll just go around the wheel. That'll be the plan. So if you have a house, a planet, your sun is in the second house, or you are a Taurus, but I think we'll mostly focus on house placement, right? Just like we did with the 12th house. So I guess in order of hierarchy, house placement, and then Taurus. I think it works. Because that way, if we have house placement, how many people will be invited to that party? Well, everybody. All 12 signs will show up. So that's better for me because maybe I'll actually get some more viewers. And it's better for you because you won't have to wait months until your number is called. Heck, you could be in Aries. I might have missed your sign, but we'll catch you up on the second house. All right. The moon is in Leo. And as the crow flies, it's right on the midheaven. And we have Leo midheaven. So hopefully I've gotten off to a bit of a rough start. I haven't forgotten my lines, but perhaps I did go on stage without my costume tonight and I had to run back and go get it. But that's where we are with the Leo midheaven. Leo midheaven, you're on stage. And there could be a lot of egos flying around by the end of the night, right? Uranus is squaring the moon. Maybe I should have picked a different topic tonight. This could get kinetic. Uranus is squaring the moon. The sun is squaring the moon. It's going to be a radical dispensation. A bit of a radical dispensation tonight. If you enjoy kind of the comfort of your fixed position in life, tonight might not be your night show. But yeah, we also have the sun in the 7th house. So communication with the other theoretically is also taking place. And again, I'll just bring it back to the show. You are filled in a chat room filled with others. And we have Uranus there, and a bit of a wild card now, isn't it? Normally when we get up and do this, we're looking at the day ahead and the day is pretty much completed itself. But tomorrow, that sun is still going to be in Taurus. It's still going to be at 15 degrees. And you're going to get up tomorrow morning and that moon will be at the end of Leo. And they'll probably still be in a wide square. But as the day moves on, it'll go into a void of course, and then it'll flip, and then it'll go into Virgo. So the latter part of the day, probably just as you're getting ready to punch that clock, the moon moves into Virgo. When I say punch it, I'm on the other end of the day. I generally tend to like starting the week off with the moon and Leo, although it is called Monday or Moon Day for a reason, because it is ruled by the moon. Today is Sunday. It's called Sunday for a reason because it is ruled by the sun. So having I would say a prominent moon, because the Leo moon is a prominent moon. And what's interesting about the Leo moon is you won't see this in like descriptions about it. But if the sun and the moon are theoretically opposites, right? If they're theoretically opposites, then having the moon in Leo, because the moon is feminine and the sun is masculine, like technically the flip side of that would be moon in Aquarius, which is kind of weird, but okay, interesting. But the moon is feminine, so we have a feminine planet with a masculine energy and manifestation. But I like it. I like it. Sometimes with the Leo moon, you'll get people that will maybe act out a little bit, maybe a little bit too much personality, maybe a little too much play, right? But what could be worse? Well, I think a lot could be worse. But dull and boring is probably worse. So tomorrow you're going to catch the last rays of this Leo moon. And are you going to feel like you want to go to work? Not always. Not always. That's a moon where it's like, I wouldn't mind taking the day off today. It's one of those, can I go to the beach kind of days? That's what I think we're talking about. I think that's probably part of the discussion. So if you're going into work tomorrow or not going into work tomorrow, would there be some consequences? Perhaps, right? Because you're going to have that moon Uranus square. It's like, you know what? I'm listening to Robert. I'm not going in today. It's too nice of a day. I'm going to catch the last rays of this Leo moon. And then you get the Uranus square and you're fired. Not quite like that, but there are some consequences for going your own way with the moon Uranus. And you know what? Maybe that's just what you need. Maybe that's just what you need. Maybe you want to get fired. I saw this video today. The algorithms on YouTube are fucking crazy now. All you got to do is click on one or two videos of a certain subject. And it used to be the algorithm would respond, I don't know, 2 days later. All of a sudden you're starting to get new things that are suggested to you might like. Now all of a sudden you click on one or two videos and you got a shit ton of recommendations. Whoa. It's like whiplash. Like when did this change? Because now it's instantaneous. So there's a reason I'm bringing this up. So I've been trying to kind of get behind, under, whatever, with this whole Shiloh Hendrix thing. Okay. And who did I watch? I think I might have watched Sargon of Akkad, who's a very even-tempered, very measured British chap who lives in Swindon. And he was talking about this from his perspective and this dynamic tension between culture and race. And then all of a sudden, I have all these fucking videos that show up just like that. I mean, it's like the algorithm's on double turbo. So I saw this video, and this is kind of what I'm getting at. I saw this video today, and it actually made me sad. It made me sad. And it was this black woman who worked, I think, at Boston Airport. Pretty sure. Is that BNA? Is that BNA Boston? I think it is. And she was trying to get past TSA, and she had her lanyard, which identified her, but you couldn't see it. You couldn't see this lanyard. And the guy who was asking her for this whole thing, she wouldn't give it up. She wouldn't show it to him. She would not show it to him. She was being belligerent. She's being obstinate. I'm like, okay, well, this is interesting. Let's see where this goes. And the cops show up, and eventually she actually shows that she has the lanyard. Like, it is underneath her sweatshirt and her shirt. It's not like she didn't have it. She had it. But she didn't want to show it. Like she was just fed up. And she was, what the hell is this? And, bitch that and motherfucker that. And I'm watching all this. I'm like, what is going on with this woman? And she's employed there. She has a job at the airport. And so the cops come, and then there's this one cop who is like, you could tell, sergeant or whatever. And he's talking to her. And she's sitting down and he's trying to reason with her. It's like, is this worth your job? All we're asking is for you to show your lanyard. And yeah, I know you're already late, but she's going, oh, you cost me all this goddamn time and money. And, and so there was this other cop who was basically kind of poking the bear a little, not bad, but poking the bear. And the sergeant is going like this. Like he's telling him to de-escalate, right? Because I think what he's understanding is this woman is having a breakdown. And she's having this breakdown in a very obnoxious kind of way, right? And there's a whole culture that's sort of evolving on the internet, which is kind of like, see, we can't live with these people. We can't live together. We can't, look at that. We got to separate, right? And look, there's plenty of videos that if you wanted to go down that path, you could easily make a case for that. This wasn't one of those videos. I sat there and I was watching a human have some kind of a meltdown. And they were on some level convinced they were keeping it real or having some kind of rights, or I don't know what the fuck was going on with this person. She wasn't a kid either. She's maybe in her, I don't know, late 40s, early 50s. She's got an airport job. I don't know what the fuck she does there. I'm not sure if she had an airport job after. And this is from 2023, so it wasn't like just yesterday. And I was watching this person. Like, what is going on? Why? It's like they had given up. Whatever had happened to them, they were willing to just implode. The kids call it crash out, right? She had a major fucking crash out. And I actually felt sorry for her because, unless the airport gives her a job back and TSA, strokes her hand and says, just do better next time. I don't know if they do that. Because she caused a lot of ruckus and a lot of hassle. It's kind of like this Moon Uranus square. That's what it feels like. And somewhere inside of her, she thought that there was some other place she needed to be. And I don't know what that place was. I don't know what motivated her. Who knows, man? Who knows what goes on in the hearts and minds of broken people? And that was a broken person. I was definitely a broken person. So when I see this Moon Uranus square, it's like, okay, well, what's your heart into? What are you into? Are you like tomorrow morning when you wake up, are you into what you're going to do? Now, there's plenty of things here. We got this Jupiter moon sextile. Yeah, you can make a pivot. Sure, you can make a pivot. Not a problem. Right? You might be able to amuse yourself. Turn your daily routine into a game. Pretend that you're driving to work and you're taking a different route. It's a video game. And you get points for every light you make or whatever, right? Like that's a moon Jupiter sextile, especially in Gemini, which loves to play games. You turn it into a game. Leo likes to have fun. You can have some fun. But if you can't do that, you get to deal with this Moon Uranus square, which is really testing the limits as to why you wake up and are going to that place that you go to, whether it's the screen in front of you or where your car takes you in the morning. because there's a real torque here to saying, fuck it, I really don't want to go. And then once you go down that path, and maybe it's the best thing for you. Once you get on that path, and let's say, traffic's backed up, and you make your way over to the exit lane, like, you know what? I'm taking the road less traveled today. And there may be ramifications for that, but maybe those ramifications are what you need. Maybe, and I'm not saying that this woman needed to get fired from her airport job, but she needed help. And maybe that's the ramification of this little scene that she pulled, this stunt that she pulled. I don't know. I don't know what the follow-up to it is. I'm not saying that you need help, right? But these are the ramifications. You might go, you know what? I'll never have to go back to that fucking job again if I don't want to. Why am I doing it? Why am I doing it? Security, safety? Am I just doing it because I do it every day? That's the ramification. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily wrong, but I'm not in your shoes. I'm not in your bank account. I'm not living with you and your spouse, whomever it is, male or female, right? So I don't have to be accountable for those decisions. Like, if somebody goes down that path, well, they do. I'm not saying you, but they do. And I could easily see this, especially with fixed science stuff. Like, I've had it. I've had it. There's no juice here. There's no passion. There's no joie de vivre. Or, this is this Moon Uranus square, and that's what we all wake up to tomorrow. Other people, other parts of the world. That's what you got in your part of the world, albeit a bit earlier than us. I talked about the Moon Jupiter sextile, which I do like, by the way. So if you can turn it into play and fun, and you can get through it that way, by all means. Or maybe this Jupiter in Gemini is also facilitating the Moon Uranus square. So you know what? You got other options. You got other options. It's hard to remember other options, or it's hard to sometimes lead into them because we live in a time where things are pretty unstable in some ways. Pretty unstable. Well, there was a time where you could leave your job and say, fuck it, I can find another job that pays this much. Or, you know what? I can find another apartment that might be slightly less, but just as good. I go from 2 bedrooms to 1 bedroom, or I go from 1 bedroom to a good sized studio. Shit, those apartments are fucking expensive now. Right. So now when you think about doing these moves, they're like, there is a financial price to pay for being, for being spontaneous. And I'm not saying you can't be. Like, I feel like sometimes we get too hemmed in by sort of the rules and the laws of the world, or by economic factors, but we have to also understand that those are real factors. And that if you are going to cut the cord, or, take the road less traveled, just be clear on it and do it with conscious awareness. No fear, right? But I feel like that we live in a time now where it's much harder to do those sorts of things. It's not impossible, but if you go back into the early 2000s, and to some extent, like even when Obama was president, I remember moving to Austin in 2012, and Obama had been president for 8 years, and I got a freaking 3-bedroom apartment in a really decent part of Austin, and I was paying like $985 a month. You can't get that apartment now for anything less than $2,800. So even when Obama was president, there was still this kind of liberty of movement. If you wanted to say fuck it and do something different, you could. But now the stakes are so much higher in a lot of ways. Not impossible, but just higher. I like this Mercury conjunction with Chiron. Mercury is getting closer and closer, and it's right at that sweet spot around 3 degrees where, tomorrow Mercury will be what 20, 22:15. Starting tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday, we get that Mercury Chiron conjunction. And anytime you get within really 4 degrees of an orb, the conjunctions get very difficult. And the ability to kind of separate them out is challenging. It's a lot more challenging. And if you have really tight conjunctions in your chart, planets separated by 1 or 2 degrees on the orb, it takes a while to understand how those planets work and to work them out in your life. It's not always easy. So today, tomorrow, we have this Mercury Chiron conjunction, which I do think in some ways is it's good to be able to have conversations where you don't necessarily have to feel like you're in charge. That's the nature of Mercury Chiron. It's like you don't have to, what I mean by that is, if you're going to have a conversation, you don't have to win. You're kind of open, right? You're more open to saying, you know what? Yeah, got a point there. There's a lot of times Mercury in Aries wants to win. Period. End of story. But with the conjunction with Chiron, winning may be a tad overrated. And maybe this is a rare moment for Aries, by the way, but maybe the best win is a win for more than just you. And it feels like this Mercury Chiron conjunction, it's speech that heals, because that's what Chiron is, right? It's the area that we're wounded with. And so it's speech that heals. It's perhaps giving somebody some validation, some recognition, giving somebody a good word, maybe pumping them up a bit. Not too much, but enough, right? And especially if that person doesn't necessarily get that from you, that's when it has a lot of impact. And we're kind of at the sort of the sweet, the really 4 degrees is about as close as you want to get. Now we're into 3, and it's getting very tight in there. When you get to 2 and 1, it's sort of like, people questioning your motivation. Like, why are you telling me this? You normally don't say anything like this. Where are you coming from? What are you trying to get out of me? Right? Like, you kind of enter it. No, really, I just mean this because I've been noticing you've been doing really well, So you're kind of getting close to that area. So tomorrow's a good day for that. And also, this is another, I think, excellent potential for the Mercury Chiron trine. You don't always have to be right? You don't have to be right. And I'm not saying that you have to go out and apologize or do anything, but it's like, you know what? I don't really have to be right on this. And the sextile to Jupiter makes it even easier, because you can flip it around. You can look at it from one way, another way, different way, whatever. Like Jupiter, Gemini loves to do that. So I like this. But after tomorrow and Mercury gets closer and closer to Chiron, I think things could be said with that Mercury Chiron conjunction that could be very misunderstood. And yes, they'll still be in sextile with Jupiter, but they can be really misunderstood. Like, what are you really saying? What are you getting at? What are you meaning? Then you have to kind of pull it apart, right? Well, I didn't really mean it that way. This is really how, oh, okay. Venus is in Aries now. Look at that. Hot stuff. Venus, Mars sextile. Right? We got that going on, don't we? Yes, we do. Venus, Mars sextile. Passion. Heat, flame. What did I say last week? Good time to make babies. Why not? It's springtime, right? We also have Neptune coming in, conjuncting Venus, the first conjunction, the idealization of relationship in a lot of ways. I look, I wonder how many people have fallen in love this weekend. Because this is prime fallen in love territory right here. Venus, Neptune conjunction, trining Mars and Leo. Maybe you have. If you have, share your story. Let us know. We're still in this Mars-Pluto opposition, and we literally will be until Mars goes to 10, 11 Leo. That's what we'll be right there. So we're still in it. It's very intense. It's feeling hot out there, right? It's starting to feel literally, no, I would say metaphorically hot. But at least the sun has kind of moved out of that T-square for now. All right. That at least gets us going. That gets us warmed up. I'll be right back. All right. Here we go. Okay. We got that out of the way. Let's roll up our sleeves. Let's start talking Alberta and this idea of secession. And isn't it interesting that we're talking about secession with a country in Canada? And we've also begun talking about last week the Civil War, which is about what? Or what's secession? And then we have a new north-south, right? Alberta's north of the border. The United States is south of the border, north-south. Civil War, north-south. So we're going to go there. We're going to start there, and we're going to talk about the chart of Alberta first and foremost. And we're going to look at it. We're going to break it down right here. Yep. Got that. Let me throw this up here. Yeah, exactly. This is what we want right here. All right. So Alberta, and look, I am big on the astrology of a place. I've seen it time and time and time again. And Texas, double Capricorn state. Boy, does it feel like it. Everybody's polite. Nobody will mess with you. if you don't mess with them. It's very Capricornian that way. And they do tend to really like old people here. I can attest to this. They love my mother. God rest her soul. But the astrology of the place, I think, is really important. And you can see the astrology of a place in the chart. So here we go. Here's Alberta. Alberta was born on September 1st, 1905. And according to Lois Roden, that was at 12 a.m. in the morning. And this is a wild chart. Look at this. This is what, like, if this was a person and they came to me for an astrological reading, I would say, how many hours do you have? We got a lot to talk about here. This is not going to be easy or done in an hour, right? I mean, literally, this is one of those charts I'd have to say, what do you want? Do you want me to cover about a quarter of it in the time that we're together? Or do you want me to do the whole thing and give me another hour and a half on top of the first hour? Because really, I mean, this is what would happen. This is what it would take for this chart. But let's get into it a little bit. All right. So the rising sign for Alberta is Cancer. Right there, Cancer. And what is Alberta known for? It is known for oil, amongst many other things. It is a resource-rich province up in the great north. And Neptune rules what? Petroleum, gas. We don't call them fossil fuels because they're not. Alcohol, poisons, anything liquid and viscous. Neptune is the ruler. So Neptune is sitting right there on the, well, not right, it's about 3 degrees off the ascendant, 4 degrees. So it's kind of lurking there in the background, right? But it's still there. Nonetheless, it is a signature of Alberta. This is really kind of what they're known for, or what the place is known for. So now all of a sudden we're like, oh, okay. Yeah, this is starting to make some sense, right? Even with Pisces on the midheaven. Ruler of Neptune. Ceres. What is Ceres doing up there? It's nurturing all of the Piscean or Neptunian resources, right? You can even see it here, right? You got a trine from Ceres to Neptune to the ascendant. Easy. Bada bing. Let's go down here. Sun in the third house. Now, this to me is very interesting. In Virgo, so we were talking about the sixth house earlier. So it's a Virgo province. Meaning there's a lot of fucking hard work that goes on there. Right. And then the third house is that there should be theoretically a fair amount of transience. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, meaning that there would be people that would go there and work for a while, and then they'd leave, and they would come back. Maybe some of it's seasonal. Maybe it's just the nature of the third house, but that's how this thing would roll. And it would also feel to me like the people that would live here, like if you're born in Alberta, grew up there, you'd probably learn to be able to do a bunch of different things. Whether it be change your oil, change a tire, change some link on a chainsaw, right? There's a lot of versatility that's associated with the sun in the third house. A lot of versatility. Also, brothers and sisters, feels to me like this is also a place that's very much connected to family in a lot of ways. Like, oh, my brother got me a job on the rig, or my cousin got me a job on the pipeline. It feels like there's a lot of that. I mean, again, I don't know. The only thing I know about Alberta, like directly is the small bits that our friend Mark shares. This is how I would see it. It would be kind of, in some ways, I wouldn't say it would be nepotistic. That wouldn't be fair, but it would be definitely like who you know, right? So this is an interesting placement for the sun, and usually I see the sun in the third house as kind of a young spirit, and perhaps there might be some people that would say, "Oh, these Albertans, when are they going to grow up?" Or, you know what I mean? I think they're kind of like that in some ways. But interesting, so we got basically double Mercury here, because this, again, is theoretically Mercury's house, and Virgo ruled by Mercury. Speaking of Mercury right here, and it is in Virgo, but it's behind the sun. So when we have that configuration, the sun here is what? Promethean. So it's like, roll up your sleeves, dive in, let's go. You don't really think about it. If you're an Albertan, you don't. It's like, we do it. We got shit done, right? That's what it feels like. It's not like Mercury in front of the sun. Like, well, let's think about this. Who else can I get to do that? Who else can I get to? No, it's like, no, roll up sleeves, get it done. That's what happens. And the true node is really interesting, right? It is at 0 Virgo. So everything we were talking about in terms of like 6th house, Virgo, like there are people, to me, this is the epitome, right? This is the epitome of kind of the 6th house talk, although we're having that discussion with Virgo. And it's all these people that live up in Alberta that work their fucking asses off, cold weather, just doing the things that they need to do in order to get paid, keep their lifestyle going. But guess what? It impacts other people ultimately in a positive way. I mean, these are, very much blue collar people. And I think of Virgo as very much a blue collar sign. And with the true node in the 2nd house, I'm sorry, is it the 3rd house? 3rd house. Oh, we got Virgo here. So you know what? So Mercury's in the 3rd house. The sun is in the 4th house. My bad. We're off a little bit. The axis is slightly tilted with Alberta. So it is that true node in the 3rd. And it's everything I talked about with the 3rd house is still there, right? That is the focal point, really, of the 3rd house. It's this true node. And even Mercury, the transients, it's still there, right? In fact, it's even more transient with Mercury. And it is also who you know, right? But the sun here is interesting. Now we have the sun in the 4th house. And that's more of a root. It's much more of an anchor, right? So, but still, this is what Alberta is about. It's about roll up your sleeves, blue collar, just get it done. Now, what's interesting is that Regulus went into Virgo in 2011. So Regulus is right now on Alberta's true node. This is an important place, whether it's Canadian or American or Albertan or on the world stage. This is an important place for any number of reasons, right? So let's play the game here a little bit. Let's say, for instance, Alberta is serious about seceding, right? Alberta is serious about seceding, and that's with an E. To me, that is the true node conjunct Regulus in Virgo. It's kind of like the people, right? It's like the folk. It's like, fuck you, whoever the PM is, whoever the crown prince of the rest of Canada. It's like, fuck you, we've had it. You don't appreciate us. We hold up, all a lot of other places in Canada. It's kind of like people will say that about California too. It's like, if it wasn't for California, places like Mississippi or Alabama or I don't know, another state that doesn't really contribute a whole lot. Like they just wouldn't exist if it wasn't for California. California holds up, their right to exist. And I think there's some crossover with Alberta and the rest of Canada, from what I know. From what I've read a little bit. So to me, this would definitely be like the People's Revolt with the True Node on Regulus. It's like, this is kind of what the True Node on Regulus was, or, Virgo into Regulus was supposed to be. It's like, enough with this sort of, top down, divine right, divine rule. It's like, no, now all of a sudden we have, Mark Carney, who's the new version of Justin Trudeau, but even worse, right? So I could see this. I could totally see this with this True Node in Virgo, conjunct Regulus. And if we're looking at, astrological transits, we're looking at transits, just wait till Mars goes into Virgo. Right? And you say, well, Mars has been in Virgo before, and it's crossed that True Node main. Yeah, it has, but not when this discussion, or at least the idea, is being tossed around in the air. Here comes Mars. Right? Mars is coming to this party. Right there. So we know that this is an apt rising sign. We have Neptune here. We know that working hard, probably not always being, recognized or rewarded, because Virgo is one of those signs that just doesn't get a lot of shine, right? I think it's part of the mix here with Albertans. Part of the mix. Pisces on the midheaven. We have Ceres. Also, Pisces and Neptune also very much involved in alcohol and the consumption of alcohol. So I wonder, I'm sure that plays a role. I think there's probably a lot of hard drinking people up there because that's how it is. Life is pretty demanding in that regard. And so there's, I think, things that we could, pull out from Neptune, like it's squaring the moon right there. And you have the moon in Libra. And I will share, it's like, okay, a nice little grand trine here. I will share something that Mark has shared with me, is that there are a lot of guys, we'll use the word guys, in Alberta, that they get into like the pipeline work, and they wind up buying lots of toys, boats, RVs, maybe a second house, big four-wheel, because they make the money, and there's this sense that I got to do something with this money. I got to play with it, right? And I feel like some of that is like here with the moon in Libra in the fourth house. It's like, okay, if I'm going to live here, if I'm going to be in this place, I'm going to get something out of it, right? I'm going to have some kind of enjoyment. I'm going to have some other recreational activity to balance my work activity, which is really what the moon in Libra would do. And yeah, guess what? There's plenty of resources there. Jupiter trine moon, 12th house. What are we pulling out of the ground? We're pulling out oil. We're pulling out gas. Again, a very 12th house operation. Now, what's interesting here is that Jupiter is coming right in, and it's going to be conjuncting Alberta's natal Pluto. Again, this has happened before. It happened 12 years ago. I don't know what they were talking about 12 years ago. Probably should have looked it up. That would have been 2013. Was there secession chatter in 2013? I don't know. But because of how things have evolved on the world stage, the United States, Canada, etc., right, this Jupiter is not the same Jupiter that it was 12 years ago. It's not, because the conditions have changed. And Pluto in the 12th house is deep fucking resources. Right? Pluto is resources. And here comes Jupiter. Right there, right? Part of fortune. Pluto, literally the part of fortune for Alberta. Right there. Literally the part of fortune. So Jupiter is going to start to move towards the ascendant. Look at that. So again, like every 12 years, Jupiter crosses the path of Alberta's ascendant. Again, the last time was probably 2013. Well, what happens when Jupiter crosses the ascendant? If you're a person, you want to expand who you are. There's this, hey, I've had Jupiter in the 12th house. I went through the retrograde. Wasn't that great? Reminded me of some things that I probably didn't do really well with and have to rethink those things. But guess what? I'm free of that now. And I really want to expand my horizons. That's what I want to do. And for some people, Jupiter on the ascendant can literally mean expanding your horizons, like your waistline. I mean, it's Jupiter in the first house can be a little rich for life and living. But this coming Jupiter transit is big because this is what's in the air, right? It's expanding. It's going beyond sort of the border, right? Literally beyond the border. This is a border right here, right? This is the horizon. The cusp is a border. And Jupiter right here is like expanding beyond, literally beyond the border. It is going from the 12th house, that which is hidden, that which is occulted, to the first house, which is that which is seen. Okay? All right, so let's get a bead on when that's going to happen. So we're looking at Jupiter at 13 degrees of Cancer. Now, Jupiter, just for your knowledge, moves into Cancer on the 9th of June. 9th of June. We're not that far away. 9th of June, Jupiter in Cancer. All right. So we're talking about the 13th, a critical degree here. August 8th, it's a Friday. August 9th, so it's at 13 degrees all the way up to August 11th, 8/11. Okay. On that day, August 11th, Mercury goes direct. Venus, check this out. Venus is conjunct Alberta's ascendant on that day. It's exactly conjunct on the 12th of August. So we have a 13-degree conjunction of Venus, contracts, new deals. Jupiter, 13 degrees just the day before. Wow. Uranus is in Gemini. Look out. 1 degree. Is very interesting. The true node is at 19 degrees. 19 degrees true node. And that's going to put it right up here. Right there. This is very interesting. I think this is very interesting. So if there's any legs here to Alberta seceding, that would be the time. Jupiter, Venus conjunction, right there. Right there. Uranus at 1 Gemini. So Uranus goes from here to just moving into the 12th house. Right there. Neptune's in Aries. What's it doing? Tick tock, trining Mars. Ooh, look at that. Now, this is interesting. We haven't talked about the sixth. Well, we've been talking about the sixth house, but not this sixth house. Right? So we have Uranus here. Kind of radical, a little radical. But Mars and Sagittarius. Yeah. Hardy types. Only hardy types need apply with Mars and Sagittarius in the sixth house. Work hard, play hard. And it is on the corner of this grand mutable cross. And that grand mutable cross would include the south node. But by degree, we're bringing in Saturn in Aquarius, which makes it a little bit fixed. Right? A little fixed. But Neptune, even though it's slow, is going to catch up with Mars. Right? Goes back, retrogrades, but Neptune at 2, 3, 4 degrees. Hello. Neptune, Mars, trine right there. And Sagittarius represents other countries. Same with the ninth house. Other countries.
Okay, now we have Capricorn over here, 7th house cusp, partnerships. Not easily undone with Capricorn over there. Lots of very formal agreements. Am I right? I think I'm right. Chiron and Pallas in the 8th house. And look at this. Pluto has entered Alberta's 8th house. Look at that. 29 degrees Venus in Cancer. 29 degrees Venus in Cancer, right there. Right there. Right? Right there. Oops. Why not? This is nice and tall. All right. So here's Pluto. Pluto's entered into the 8th house. Other people's money, resources, hello. Right? And vulnerability. This is what Chiron is all about. We got Pluto right here coming right in and trining the moon and trining Jupiter. I'm telling you, I think there's legs here. And I know that historically, it's not how these people roll, but I think this is different. I think there's a there there. Let's go back to this. Actual size. I think there's a there there. We got a yod. This is a very complex chart. Got a yod. It's with Venus agreements. Agreements. Uranus and Saturn. Sextile. And Uranus here is retrograding in Capricorn. So Saturn. That's interesting. Maybe that's why this has come up again and again since the 1930s. Right? Like both of these planets are unsettled. And then you've got this 29th degree of Cancer, anoretic. And Cancer is not a sign that likes to let go. Doesn't like to let go. And again, maybe this is part of the story. It's like you get really, really close, but no, we're not letting go. We're not letting go. I mean, I think ultimately Jupiter, when it conjuncts Venus, which would be next year, because we go through the retrograde, that's going to be hella interesting. Because it's going to be right on the tip of this yacht. And if I'm not mistaken, I could be completely wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, this kind of Albertan discussion really started to pick up when Mars was maybe 0-1 Leo, kind of conjuncting Venus here. Like it was stimulating, right? It was like, let's go. Let's talk about this. Let's bring this to the table. So to me, this is a really interesting chart. And first of all, I think that we can establish that Alberta is inside this chart. We could clearly make a case for this, right? Particularly with the ascendant and Neptune, that alone would say, yep, that works, right? No, I'm using that. Okay. Saturn in the 10th, going to be moving into Aries. And what's it going to do? It's going to oppose the moon. It's going to be there for a while, right? Saturn moon opposition. Neptune moon opposition. Neptune's in opposition to Alberta's moon. Like, is it a pipe dream? Pun intended? Slightly. Or is this something that they're going to be into? The Saturn moon opposition doesn't really come about very easily, does it? Outside forces threaten the sanctity, the peace of the Libran moon. Although I would not say that it is necessarily a peaceful place. Not with your Uranus trine, a square rather. Nope. And a wide square with Pluto. Definitely square with Neptune. To me, this is sort of dysfunctional. You want to talk, alcohol. You want to talk kind of drugs. To me, this is, when Mark told me that people, who like work in the pipeline and stuff like that, and they buy all these things so that it feels like it makes their life easier or more fun, or because they got to work in, play like hell, work like hell, play like hell, right? Kind of that sort of deal. But there is a trade-off for that. And it's that Neptune moon square. It's kind of like an addiction or something that you're putting off because you don't want to deal with it. You don't want to answer to it, right? Now, I'm not saying that secession would change that, but it would definitely be something that would, because let's say if it did happen, you'd have to have a whole new chart for Alberta now, wouldn't you? It's wild. It's wild to think about. But is it out of the realm of possibility? With Pluto and Aquarius, I don't think so. Nothing is out of the realm of possibility with Pluto. When you think something could never happen, it'll happen. If you think something, oh yeah, shit, easy. No worries, no problem. Slam dunk, guess what? Probably not going to happen. That's just some of the inverse magic of Pluto and Aquarius. So I think this is a very, very interesting chart. The other thing, and maybe this gets back to, because again, Mark said, man, these people never do it. They don't have the spirit for it. And you look at this chart, they got one planet in fire, and that's that Mars in Sagittarius. And there might be some truth to that, right? Just look at, like, where are they going to get the fire and the spirit to do this? They get all this water, right? It could be placid, it could be turgid, but all this water and a lot of air and a lot of talk. But when it comes right down to it, where is that revolutionary fire? It may not be here. But maybe, perhaps, there's somebody or someone else in the mix. Well, they might bring that revolutionary fire. But before we go to who that person might be, how does the Alberta chart size up with America's chart? Well, we should probably look at that. We should probably look at the synastry between Alberta and the United States, which I have right here. All right, so this is it. Well, look what we have here. Who is sitting right on Alberta's ascendant? The United Corporation of America, right there. Boom. That's a boom. Can I get a boom? Boom. Alberta, we will welcome you with open arms. Open arms. We will create koozies for your Molsons and your Labatts or whatever you drink. We'll have welcome to America koozies, and we'll send them to you. I mean, come on. Hello. We're soulmates. Alberta, we're soulmates. You're our long lost family, our long lost tribe. Come back. We need you. You need us. Part of fortune right there. Look at that. Venus conjunct the U.S. part of fortune. So look, whether or not Alberta hooks up with the United States, we got the pipeline. You got to hook that thing back up. Trudeau, U.S. Leo, right there, second house. But to me, that's the connection right there. Jupiter comes in, right? Does everybody benefit from it? Maybe. Look at the U.S. Mars conjunct Alberta's Pluto. Look at that. Yeah, I think you get a little wiki, a little wiki, a little skunk worky. I was thinking, this is a terrible thought, but it's a thought that nonetheless, when you play the global game, you have to have it. If I'm Trump, I'm sending the CIA into Canada to help make this happen. I know it sounds terrible, right? But it's kind of, let's pump the propaganda machine. Who can we send up there? Who can we send up there that would be a great representative for the U.S.? How about Kid Rock? I bet the Albertans could really relate to Kid Rock. That's what I'm thinking. Just send Kid Rock up there. The Kid Rock tour. Let him just tour a bunch of small, like, beer joints and shit in Alberta. Kid Rock would love that, wouldn't he? Wouldn't the Albertans love that? By the time it was all said and done, I think we could sew this thing up by the end of the Kid Rock tour. That's what I think. I'm being slightly facetious, but also not. Let me just see something. Now I've got my curiosity piqued. Let me just see this. Oh, look at this. Oh my God. I'm on. Look, I am over the fucking target. Kid Rock is currently co-headlining the Rock the Country Festival in the United States alongside Nickelback. So they took Canada and brought it to the United States. This tour is described as a gathering for the true heart of America and features a lineup of artists with strong focus on patriotism. Nickelback's participation in the tour is drawing mixed reactions from fans, according to the Toronto Star. Oh, look at that. So Nickelback is on tour with Kid Rock. How about that? I would say just send Kid Rock on the Alberta tour. Let's see, where are they? Knoxville, Arlington, Kid Rock's Rock and Rodeo. York, Pennsylvania, Carolina, Rock the Country, Hastings, Mississippi. They're going through the South here, the deep South. Kid Rock is touring the South during the summertime. They get hot and sweaty. I think that's it. I think the dates end on the 25th of July. But it's interesting that Nickelback is touring with Kid Rock. There you go. All right. So what else do we have here? All right. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Not quite Pluto and Aquarius. Pretty damn close. 27 degrees, 29 degrees. This is what you call a fatal attraction right there. Venus, Pluto. Venus at Cancer, 29. Pluto at Capricorn, 27. Look at that right there. Right there. So when transiting Jupiter Okay, we're back. Thank you for being patient. Now, I cannot guarantee that that won't happen again because the old computer here is not holding a charge. See, look at that. So we're gonna struggle through this. So you don't have to see me, but you can see this chart and you can hear me, right? Am I right? Yeah, I'm right. Anyway, apologize for that. My computer just went out, just like that. And I've been remarking to myself, you know, this computer, such an old warhorse. It's so great. Yeah. Well, we'll see where it goes. All right, we're back. Thank you. And hopefully I'll have enough power to get through the rest of the show. Because normally, you know, you plug this thing in and as you're going, it's charging, right? It's like the charge is greater than what's being sapped out of the computer, but that wasn't the case apparently. And I'm going to keep my eye on the little lightning bolt inside the battery. All right, so let's do this. Let's go back to this chart with the US, which I think is kind of hand in glovey. That's what it feels like to me. Like even with the moon, you know, the moon in Aquarius, you know, end of Aquarius, conjunct Saturn. Look at that. Moon Saturn conjunction right there. So the US moon is at 27, right? And then where is Saturn here for Alberta? 28. Aquarius. The mother and the father, right? The masculine and the feminine, theoretically. Right there. Boom. Series. Look at that. Long-term goals and objectives. And even when we look at the moon, the US moon is just almost conjunct Alberta's midheaven. This would be like a new freaking home. But this is interesting. I think this is really interesting. In fact, dare I say, there's a there. US Uranus coming into its Uranus return. It's going to be coming up here pretty soon, right? But it's already here, conjuncting Jupiter in the 12th house, stirring the restless feelings, perhaps, of people in that part of the world. But maybe not everybody will go along with it or feel all that hunky-dory about it. Venus-Uranus opposition, Mars-Uranus opposition. Do I think there's a there? Yes, I do. And again, it's right here. It's right there. The sun, right? US sun, right there on the ascendant of Alberta. Transiting Jupiter, boom. US going through its own Jupiter return, boom. There's a there. Now, every deal needs a broker. And just who might that broker or deal maker be? Oh, yeah, that's right. One Donald John Trump. That's right. So Alberta's on the outside, Trump's on the inside. Look at this. Remember this? Alberta's true node. It is what, 2 degrees off of Trump's ascendant. The 3 degrees off is Mars. Right there. Trump's Saturn and South Node is right on the descendant of Alberta. Hello. That's what you call making a deal. Saturn on the descendant here is partnership. So we've just established that with the United States, there are enough interstitial pieces for, it's like, if it was a non-fit, I'd be the first one to tell you. There are plenty of, is there opposition? Of course. There's some oppositional components to this. But man, that sun on the ascendant, conjunct Neptune, Jupiter coming back around, Jupiter return for the US, Jupiter on the ascendant, expanding everything. Pretty significant. And now you've got Trump's chart and Alberta's true node right on the ascendant, and then Trump's south node and Saturn right there, right? Actually, this is Alberta's south node and Saturn. With Trump, they're the one that comes to the deal. It's Alberta. In fact, I think they're going to, there's like some contingency going to the US to go meet with Trump. They're coming with the deal. They're going to come with the deal for Trump. I'm telling you, it's right there. Look at this. Okay. So here we go. This is Trump, Saturn, Venus, and right there at 29 degrees is Alberta's Venus conjunct Trump's Saturn. But here's where it gets real spicy. This is Pluto right there, right? Pluto in Alberta's chart. It's right on Trump's sun. Look at that. And Trump is hanging out in Alberta's 12th house. He's definitely behind the scenes here. So we have a Pluto sun conjunct, who knows, he might be obsessed with it. But again, this is and part of fortune. Alberta's part of fortune conjunct Trump's sun, Trudeau, Uranus. Look at that. Right there. Neptune. And remember, this is Alberta's ascendant. So Trump's Saturn, Venus in Alberta's first house. Trump's Mercury conjunct Neptune, conjunct Alberta's ascendant. We have the United States sun there. Hello. Look at that. This is the moon for Alberta, conjunct Neptune in Trump's chart. Interesting. Alberta's Mars down here in Trump's fourth house. So this would be aggressive. This would be Alberta being aggressive in terms of making overtures, trying to make this is an interesting chart, no matter how you spin it. Right? This is a very interesting chart. That's it. That's Saturn, right? This is Alberta's Saturn, right on his descendant, part of fortune, part of the deal. And I'm not here to be MAGA Trump astrologer, but I could easily see this happening. I could easily see it happening. I think the hardest thing would be those oppositions in the last chart that we saw. That would be the most difficult pieces to put together here. And even here with Moon Pluto, right? So this is Trump's eclipse moon in Sagittarius opposing Pluto up here conjunct. So Trump might just become totally obsessed with this. It's going to be fascinating to watch. So the exercise here is, could we predict secession with an E and not with a U, although the U could stand for the United States of America? Could we predict secession based on astrology? And I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes. Even though I can totally see, there's not a lot of fire, right? There's just not a lot of fire in that Albertan chart, but there's plenty of fire in Trump's chart with that Mars and Leo on the ascendant, and that's where that true node is. If there was somebody who would make this happen, it would be Trump. And not because he's Trump. It's because of the chart. The chart. All right. So we got Jupiter. We got a year's worth of Jupiter coming up in June when it goes into Cancer. Right. We have the conjunctions onto the ascendant in July. right? Venus, like it's going to be a really interesting time. There's a retrograde and it comes back around again. And finally, it finishes everything off with what? With Jupiter conjuncting Venus in Calgary's chart at 29 degrees next year, just before it moves into the sign of Leo, where we have another discussion about Jupiter. So to me, I had no idea, right? Like, okay, well, what's it look like? What's this thing going to look like? Can we actually have an interesting discussion about this? The answer is yes, completely. So all you Albertans up there, welcome to America. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But in some ways, I'm not. Because I do think that there's enough sticky parts to everything that we've just seen, both from the United States, transits to Alberta's chart, and the relationship with Donald John Trump. If I was a betting man, and the last time I really made a physical bet on something, I won, so I hadn't done it in a long time, and it was the Tyson Fury fight. The second one, Deontay Wilder, I won money. So I thought I'll go out of order. If I was a betting man, I'd say the chances of this happening somewhere between 70 to 80%, leaning to 80, just based on the astrology. The astrology alone. All right. We're going to start to have a different conversation now, since we moved off of that. And I hope that at the very least you were able to learn a little astrology and might actually consider stranger things happening. Didn't I say, just before my computer went dark, I was like talking about the things that you think are going to happen won't, and the things you think are going to happen will. I thought I'd be able to get through this show without my computer going out. And I think there's something to that. All right, so we're going to get into the next part of our discussion. And we started this last week. And it was about Neptune in Aries. And when it went into Aries, Fort Sumter falls, and we have the beginning of the Civil War. And we looked at all that. We looked at all these strange and crazy connections around twins, right? The United States being split into two and having a North and a South, brother against brother. The Metcalf twins, the character that Michael B. Jordan plays in Sinners, twins, right? Like all this, crazy shit that, if you go back to last week's show, there's a lot of alignment, and especially looking at some of the players in the Civil War and like who they were. We got into the Masonic chessboard, and we talked about archons and a lot of the. If you haven't seen last week's show, I think it would be helpful for you to peep it, come back and watch this week's show, because I don't want to go back and cover a bunch of ground that we already did. That said, this is kind of a continuation of last week's show. So if you haven't heard of Shiloh Hendrix, you're living under a rock. And if some of you are living under said rock, or you just don't pay attention to the media, and I think a lot of people at certain points tune out, or maybe there's too much for them to keep up with. Let me go over this Shiloh Hendrix story. And then we'll try to bring this thing fast forward up to speed right now. And really what I want to get into is the unresolved spirit of the Civil War. The unresolved spirit. And the spirit is a manifestation of Neptune and Aries. Neptune is the spirit. right? Neptune is the spirit. Pisces is the spirit. Virgo is the flesh. Virgo is the hands. Virgo is the body. That is the Pisces-Neptune axis. Pisces-Virgo axis. So Neptune being the ruler of Pisces is the spirit. So it's the spirit of the Civil War that is being reanimated right now for, I think, good reason. And when I show you some of these things and you see the parallels, your eyes are going to pop out. So let's talk about Shiloh Hendrix. Shiloh Hendrix lives in Rochester, Minnesota. Okay, let's just take a pin, point that on the map. Right. Rochester, Minnesota. Where is that? That's the north. That's the north. Carmelo Anthony is in Texas, Frisco, Texas, which technically is the South. The Anthony family moved from the Louisiana area, either Bogalusa or Baton Rouge, one of the two, and moved to Frisco. And it's kind of like that on a parallel line from the South. So now we have the South and the North again. And why is Shiloh Hendrix newsworthy? Well, she was at a park in Minnesota and she was playing with her kid. And by the way, Shiloh Hendrix happens to be white, blonde, kind of tatted up. And this 5-year-old kid, who supposedly is autistic, I don't know, went into her bag for her kid, like toys or whatever, and went in and took something and snatched it and started to run away. And Shiloh called the little boy the N-word, right? Like, you know, get back here, you little N-word, right? Or what are you doing, you little N-word? Like, she comes right out and says it. And there's, okay, so that would not have, it wouldn't matter. Like, that would have been shit that happens in playgrounds, not every day, but it does happen. However, there's a guy there who's videotaping her, and he's a Somalian. All right. All right. So remember, chat, here we go. We're kind of opening up the vault here. So I would say just use your best head as we get into this, because a lot of this is very hot, right? Like, a lot of people are kind of fuming. Well, why are you talking about it? Well, I got to talk about it. Because we don't talk about it, then we're not really doing this thing a service. And I'm trying to take it to another level so you can understand what's going on. My battery's charging. Okay. Somali guy, who, by the way, has been run up on sex offender charges, and he's there by himself. Why is Somali guy at the playground anyway? Nobody's really talking about Somali guy, but that's okay. We'll leave Somali guy and his past aside, where he and I believe his brother were trying to groom a 16-year-old girl who was sort of broken out of a foster home, and they were trying to groom her. Okay, but that, we'll leave Somali guy's past aside for now. He videotapes her, and he's basically calling her out on the use of the very controversial word. And she doesn't apologize. She doesn't do any of it. She flips him off and doubles down and triples down. Shiloh Hendrix, in that moment, became the poster child for white fatigue. And by the way, white fatigue is something that even so-called Black YouTubers, presenters, they're talking about it. And yeah, they kind of get it. Right? So all of a sudden now, Shiloh Hendrix has done something that millions of Americans wish they could do. And it's not really using the N word, right? Most Americans, I don't think, give a shit about that, to be honest with you. What they do care about are two things. One is that she wasn't going to apologize for who she was and what she said, which is very, it's kind of reminiscent of Trump in some ways. And I know people have been trying to call Trump a racist for a long time now, but there's really no record of that, with the exception of what he did back in the days when he was renting apartments in New York. And by the way, it was not uncommon for people at that time to not rent particular groups because they were profiling those groups and they didn't have Section 8 housing. I'm not saying it's right, and I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just telling you that that's how business was done. She has just been completely unapologetic about the whole thing. And there are millions and millions of Americans who've sat through George Floyd, who've sat through cities burning, statues toppling, all the while having a finger pointed at them all the time that it's their fault, their fault, their fault. You're racist. It's systemic. The only thing that will save systemic racism is literally to eliminate the racists. That's really what systemic racism is all about. If you distill it enough, it really becomes a final solution. That's because you can't get rid of system. It is systemically in what. So if you have something that's systemic, what do you have to do? Like cancer, you have to cut the thing out if it's systemic, right? Theoretically, that's the code around systemic racism. So there's been all of this invective hurled at people who have been extremely tolerant, like really tolerant. And the level of tolerance has gotten very, very thin. And now you have Shiloh Hendrix flipping the bird and doubling down, tripling down. So what happens? She decides she's going to set up a GoFundMe because now she's being doxxed and she has to leave just to find a new home. Keep in mind, Carmelo Anthony and somebody besides the parents, I don't know who it was, Jacob Wells of Give, Send, Go will not divulge who started the GoFundMe. But they did. And they started the GoFundMe to pay for the legal expenses for Carmelo Anthony, who, for all intents and purposes, stuck a knife into Austin Metcalf's heart. Killed him. Got $500,000. So now Shiloh Hendrix starts a GoFundMe. She goes past Carmelo Anthony. But because this is happening, people on the Carmelo Anthony side have said, well, we can't let this white bitch get more than him. We're gonna put in more. By the end of the day, they're gonna be worth millions, which is the most ironic fucking thing out of this whole thing. So, but if you look at the comments, which have now been suspended, they've been deleted. You cannot you can only donate, you can't leave a comment. But one of the things that was problematic of the comments on Carmelo Anthony's Good Give, Send, Go, where they were not real warm and fuzzy towards so-called whitey, right? Like there was a lot of hate, a lot of invective, but Jacob Wells is like, well, we did this for Kyle Rittenhouse. We did this for other people, the guy from New York that had the, jujitsu, the crazy guy, Daniel, what's his name? Right. So Like it's been invective based the entire time it's been up. So this would be no Daniel Penny. But let's just say you could throw in $5 and get in the saltiest expression of your First Amendment rights. Okay. If you looked at Shiloh Hendrix's, very different. We stand with you, right? There wasn't a lot of like, kill the ends. Like that wasn't happening on her comments. It was more like, we support you, we stand with you. Very different. But so what Jacob Wells did, it's funny we have Jacob's Well over here, not far from us. Anyway, Jacob Wells, the guy who runs Gibson, what he did is he suspended the comments. So now you can leave money but no comments. Now, some people think that he should cut off these give, send, goes. It's like enough is enough, right? Give them the money and let's be over and done with this. Because now we're in these dueling give, send, goes. And again, what's interesting, what did we talk about last week? We talked about this polarity, the black and white polarity. Well, we get the black and white polarity again, only this time we get male and female, theoretically, right? Carmela Anthony, male, Shiloh Hendrix, female, black, white. It's still in the same polaric field that we talked about last week. And so here we go, right? It is like the ghost of, it's like the ghost, the spirit of the Civil War is being resurrected. This is what's happening. Neptune and Aries, the spirit of the Civil War is being resurrected. Why? Well, it's because there are a number of reasons that the Civil War was started. Abolition and slavery was way down the list. Way down the list. Do you know what was one of the biggest reasons why? I'm going to show you. This is from Paul Craig Roberts. Okay. Paul Craig Roberts. A famous conservative libertarian pundit. Right? See if it's right here. Let me just see this. I got two documents. There's this one. Okay, hold on. And then hold on. There's this one. Here we go. This is Realpolitik. Give me 1 second here. This is by Carol Duff. I believe she is the girlfriend or I guess wife of Veterans Today, Gordon Duff. This is from 2020. And this is from the book, It Wasn't About Slavery, Exposing the Great Lie of the Civil War. Let me bring this up here. And this is kind of a thumbnail sketch and summation about this. It Wasn't About Slavery, Exposing the Great Lie of the Civil War, Dr. Samuel W. Mitchum. The book is an eye-opener for those who still believe the Civil War, American Civil War, fought between 1861 and 1865, which killed at least 1,030,000 people, which is about 3% of the population, 50,000 civilians, 620,000 soldier deaths. Maybe these figures are higher. Of course, this accounted for more American deaths than all other wars America has been involved in. If you thought that this war was fought for the sake of freeing the slaves, you would be convinced otherwise. Okay. So what was it about? Money. Money. The South financed most of the federal government before the war because the federal government was funded by tariffs, which were paid disproportionately by the agricultural South, which imported manufactured goods. Most federal government spending and subsidies benefited the North. Where have we heard tariffs before? Oh, isn't that interesting? We're having a discussion around tariffs. It's albeit a different setting, but it's one of the things, not the only thing, but one of the things that is also at the heart of the Civil War. History has been rewritten by the North page. This is 1617. The war for Southern self-determination was not solely about slavery. Freeing the slaves was a result of the war, not the casus belli. This is from the author. In my view, slavery was part of a Cold War-like struggle between the North and the South, whose economic customs, religion, values, and ways of life were increasingly divergent. If culture is defined as the total way of life of a people, they had distinct cultures from the beginning. Only with the evolution of modern historical thought, heavily influenced by the ideas and tactics of Marx and Stalin, did the Civil War become all about slavery. Marxist history validates the words of Confederate Major General Patrick Cleburne, who warned his men, surrender means that the history of this heroic struggle will be written by the enemy, that our youth will be trained by Northern school teachers, their version of the war, will be impressed by all the influences of history and education to regard our gallant dead as traitors and our married veterans as fit subjects for derision. About the author, Dr. Samuel W. Mitchum, Jr., is the author of more than 40 books, most of which centered on World War II. He has appeared on the History Channel and the BBC, has been a visiting professor at West Point, and served as an Army helicopter pilot during the Vietnam War. Let's just, money, the South financed most of the federal government before the war. Tariffs, right there. It's a money deal. It's a big money deal, right? And this is why this is coming up again. This is why it's coming up again. Because history has been a lie. Basically, what we had these states, which were theoretically states unto themselves. It wasn't a country like we have today. They were states that were part of a union. By the end of this war, it was no longer like that. Those states were defeated. They were now part of something else. And the reason why I believe that we have not been able to really have closure around any of this is the fact that it's been a lie. That, to me, is why all of this is coming up now. It's why we have these reflections or mirrors of the Civil War that seems to be brewing underneath the surface of all of this, which, by the way, it's not just the United States that is dealing with Civil War-like conditions. You can see some of this in other parts of the world as well. Some of it is sort of festering beneath the surface of the West in general, but here in particular, specifically. So Neptune is the realm of illusion. The war started under the realm of illusion. And then the historical record, again, Neptune and Aries, isn't really the correct historical record. This is why this is coming up now. Because everything that unfolds from it, including things like the civil rights movement, the NAACP, which was not started by the only quote unquote African American that was really a part of that was W.E.B. Du Bois, who was kind of, I hate to say it, sort of a token figurehead. It was started by essentially Marxists who wanted to use ultimately this class race affliction to their advantage so they could pit Black Americans against the system and other Americans. Go back and look at the creation of the NAACP. And it all happens because the war begins and takes place under Neptune and Aries, and it is fraught with illusion. And the telling of the story, again, the victors get to tell the story. But it's coming up now. It's coming up because maybe, just maybe, we might be able to get to the roots of all this thing, right? We might, if there is an answer for this conflict around race, let's go back to the source. Let's go back to when it all started. Let's retell the story or uncover the story for what it was at the time. And it may not be pretty. It may not be all about the gallantry of the North and, oh, these good Yankees. All they really care about were the poor Blacks in the South that were absolutely being incarcerated against their will. But, you know, they came in and they saved the day. And by God, you people better be happy for the rest of your freaking lives because they did that. No, I don't really think that that's the full story. That's what they told us. And so it's all coming up now. It's all coming up, right? And the word tariff, if that's not a clue, right, that this is also a part of the story, although being retold in a different way, contextually during a different time. Hello? I mean, it's not one-to-one, but hey, man, it's tariff with a capital T then, and it's tariff with a capital T now, right? And even when we look at Alberta, which is in the north, and we're in the south, like this is starting to get Hall of Mirrors kind of freaky. Am I right? Okay. Before I go into another reason why this war started the way that it did, there was some other interesting stuff here. And it had to do with, don't have the, okay, let me see if I can find it. All right, so when I did a search for Hendrix in the Civil War, a couple of things came up, kind of interesting. One was, again, this is, you know, part of this freaky deaky sort of echo effect of symbols and history and time. So what do we have here? Remember, Hendrix is the name that we're hunting for. The history of Fort Sumter, building a Civil War landmark. Patrick Hendrix. Look at that, Hendrix. And by the way, every single Hendrix, and I looked this up, every single Hendrix associated with the Civil War fought on the side of the North. But there's another really interesting piece here. Okay. All right. Let me show you this. Guns N' Roses did a song called Civil War. And I'm not going to play because I don't want to get bumped here. But it's on Facebook. I'll just show it to you. And this is a live version of Civil War. And they used Jimi Hendrix's Voodoo Child as part of the song, right? So again, we have Civil War, Guns N' Roses, and then Hendrix, right? And we just saw Robert Hendrix, the building of Fort. So again, we're just looking at stuff that's very astro-syncy. By the way, it looked like they have the Ukraine colors in the background on that. Was speaking of Civil War, Ukraine, sort of, maybe. So again, I'm just trying to show you, right, these weird parallels, like super weird parallels. And it's coming up for a reason, because the Civil War is not how they sold it to us at all. And it gets pretty deep. And if you want to go like really deep, right, you can get into the Rothschilds and the Rothschilds' involvement with the Civil War and money and Lincoln and greenbacks. Like, that's a whole nother layer to this thing. But we've just sort of distilled it down into the recreation of these battles and this idea that it was the noble war. And what happened was a byproduct of really what was going on, which was, it's about resources. We don't want the South to secede. We got too many financial connections here. We got these tariffs. It's kind of a big deal. And there's this weird thing that happens with Lincoln. And Lincoln winds up seeing his own death in a mirror. It's a really weird story. I'll get into that. But let's go here. And this is from The Hypocrisy of the Civil War. And the author is Jacob Hornberger, and it's the Future of Freedom Foundation. So there's something in here that's really interesting and timely. Again, we're looking at this from like a synchromistic or an astrosync perspective. This is what we're looking at. Okay, so this is the piece. The Lies and the Hypocrisy of the Civil War. This guy's a libertarian. He's not big on statues. I don't blame him. He says the most popular lie is the one that says Abraham Lincoln waged the war to free the slaves. That's just a plain lie. Ending slavery was the result at the end of the war, but it was clearly not Lincoln's goal at the beginning of the war. Lincoln had one reason alone for initiating war against the Confederacy: to keep the nation intact by suppressing the South's secession. That was it. Well, there was more. It was the tariffs, but that's part of it. That was Lincoln's sole aim prior to the war. He made it clear that slavery was legal under the U.S. Constitution. He said that. Thus, he believed the only way to end it legally would have been by constitutional amendment. Indeed, further proof of Lincoln's aim is seen in his Emancipation Proclamation, which freed slaves only in certain areas. If he were waging the war to end slavery, wouldn't he have proclaimed the freedom of all slaves and not just some of them? That's a good point. Let's assume that there was no slavery in the South, that the South had seceded for some other reason, say tariffs, or simply because Southerners had decided they no longer wanted to associate with the North. Even without slavery, there is no doubt that Lincoln would have initiated the war to prevent the South from seceding. What if the Confederate States seceded today and declared their independence? Does anyone doubt that the federal forces would be sent into the South to suppress the secession? Of course they would. That's what Kennedy did when he sent the troops into Alabama. right? Or Arkansas. I believe it was Arkansas. Arkansas and Alabama. Sent the troops in. Alabama, right? It was George Wallace, right? Yeah. Like, that's what happens. So why the lie? Why not teach American children the truth that the Civil War was waged to prevent secession? That ending slavery was simply a byproduct of the war. I suggest that the reason for the lie is that proponents of the Civil War know that suppressing secession might not be considered by many to be a noble cause for a war that killed and maimed hundreds of thousands of people and destroyed half the country, not to mention that it damaged freedom and the democratic process of this country. Not so with ending slavery. That's something noble. That's something that many people would say was worth tremendous sacrifices in life, limb, freedom, and prosperity. Thus, the lie comes into existence. The Civil War was waged to end slavery, it is said, which is a noble cause, one worth sacrificing the lives for hundreds of thousands of people and the destruction of half the country. It makes it a noble lie, but it is a lie nonetheless. And this is why all of this is coming up now. This is the grand theater where we're seeing the generation. You know, it's kind of like when you have your Chiron return. And if you haven't solved your Chiron return by the time you're 50, like whatever happened at the time your life went off the wheels at the degree Chiron is listed at, 8, 9, 10, 20, it doesn't really matter, right? Give or take a year or two. By the time you hit your Chiron return, if you haven't dealt with that, Chiron will surely help you deal with that. The universe will help you deal with it. It recreates the conditions of the thing that you haven't dealt with. And that's what we're talking about here. The conditions of the thing that we haven't dealt with are now happening right beneath our nose. And some of it is being stoked by race peddlers, grifters, whatever, right? Some of this is the third party shit, which we'll get into, because there is certainly a third party action that was prominent during the Civil War. That third party action is happening right now as well, right? So it's all coming together. We're watching it before our very eyes because it was a noble lie. It was a noble fucking lie. And the sooner we get to it, the sooner we can move on, right? Because it is a thing that has been exploited, a wound that has been opened again and again and again and again, to the point where all of a sudden the tables were turned and it's like, guess who's on the bottom now? All the people who have been are putting money into Shiloh Hendrix's give, send, go, because they feel like this other group has been treated differently than they've been over the last 15 to 20 years. And you get Aaron Magruder from Boondocks, and what does he say? We have spent our social and material capital, they being Black America, everything that they theoretically had created during civil rights, right? We've squandered it all because we've been acting the fool. Like we have squandered the inheritance of civil rights. And he says, white people won't hate us. This is this. You go look it up. I can play it for you if I find it, if I want to. White people won't hate us. They just won't care, right? And that's where we got. Like, that's where we are. And it's all because it's a fucking lie. The war was a lie. And the winners get to tell the story. The victors get to tell the story. And the sooner we get to untangling the lie, the faster we can move beyond the wound that is opened again and again and again and again and is exploited by anybody that wants to or needs to for their own cause. And when we're done with this, We'll get on to World War I and we'll get on to World War II and we'll end those fucking lies so that we can finally move on and move into the future together because we have faced the lies and we have buried them. And we're just beginning. We're just getting started. This thing is just starting to whip up, right? Okay. So let's go into this here a little bit more. This is really interesting. I'm going to scroll down here. Keep going, keep going. Oh, sovereign states. Here we go. People claim that Southerners were fighting to preserve slavery and therefore cannot in any circumstances be considered patriots. They miss two important points, however. One is that secessionists in 1776 intended to preserve slavery in their new country, and nonetheless, they are still considered to be patriots, which is true, although some people will say the founding fathers were, slave owners, hypocrites, colonizers, whatever. The other point is related. It's possible to fight for two principles, one noble and the other ignoble. Lee provides a good example. When the war broke out, Lincoln offered him command over all Union forces. Lee turned down the offer, returned to Virginia, where he assumed command over the Confederacy's army of Northern Virginia at the time. His wife was also a slave owner. Critics today call Lee a traitor. They say he betrayed his country by taking up arms against it, just as some people consider George Washington, who was also a slave owner, to be a traitor for taking up arms against his country, England. The problem is that such critics are looking at the situation from the standpoint of a 21st century American, one who's been indoctrinated into viewing the federal government and the nation in a way that is entirely different from the 18th century and 19th century Americans viewed them. Today's Americans are taught to view the United States as one nation consisting of states that are inferior and subordinate to the federal government. That was not the mindset of our ancestors. They viewed the nation as a collection of sovereign, independent entities that had simply confederated together to facilitate matters of common interest. That's what I was talking about. In the process, however, the states understood that they were not surrendering their separate, independent, and sovereign status. That was manifested in the type of political structure that they established. The charter by which they came together was called, appropriately, the Articles of Confederation. That's because they came together simply as a confederation and without losing the independence and sovereignty of each state under the Articles. Federal government was given very few powers. It wasn't even given the power to tax. Okay? Keep that in mind. What are we talking about? Sovereignty, sovereign states, a confederation. Right? Just keep that in mind. Hold that in your head. Hold that in your head. Okay? Who won the Kentucky Derby? Sovereignty. This happened when? Oh, May 3rd. Where? Louisville, Kentucky? The South? Sovereignty. Interesting name, isn't it? Very, very interesting name. 7-1 odds. Sovereignty. And here, what are we talking about? We're talking about sovereignty. We're talking about the South, that this was ultimately what it was all about, right? That and tariffs. Oh, there's more. Trust me, there's more. What's really interesting about the Kentucky Derby is the names of the horses. Fascinating. I just want to show you some of the names. I hope CBS doesn't force me to terminate this. Okay, so these are the horses. Let's see. Hold on. Here we go. This is Sports Illustrated. Every horse that was in the Kentucky, I found this to be fascinating. So you have Sovereignty right there, the 18 horse winning it. But check out some of these other horses. Really interesting. So you have Journalism and you have Publisher. And then you have Render Judgment. Now, could you imagine if Journalism, Publisher, or Render Judgment had finished 1, 2, 3? A little like, whoa, right? And then Chunk of Gold actually finished last, brought up the field. So Chunk of Gold and Sovereignty were basically, one was at the front and one was at the back. And by the way, apparently, all of these horses were offspring of Secretariat. Talk about bloodlines. Okay. Let me get back to the Civil War stuff here. Okay, so this is another article right here. This is the Paul Craig Roberts article. It was about power, not slavery. There are so many people that have written about Thomas D. Lorenzo, of course, is like the famous Lincoln scholar that talks about all of this. And this is interesting. If we look carefully, we can find a phony hook in the South Carolina Declaration of Causes of Secession, December 20th, 1860. As long as we ignore the reasoning of the document, Lincoln's election caused South Carolina to secede. During his campaign for president, Lincoln used rhetoric aimed at the abolitionist vote. Abolitionists did want slavery abolished for moral reasons, though it is sometimes hard to see their morality through their hate, but they never controlled the government. South Carolina saw in Lincoln's election rhetoric intent to violate the U.S. Constitution, which was a voluntary agreement and which recognized each state as free and independent, hence sovereign. After providing a history that supported South Carolina's position, the document says that to remove all doubt about the sovereignty of states, an amendment was added, which declared that the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited to it by the states, are reserved to the states, respectively, or to the people. South Carolina saw slavery as the issue being used by the North to violate the sovereignty of states and to further centralize power in Washington. The secession document makes the case that the North, which controlled the U.S. government, had broken the compact on which the Union rested and therefore had made the Union null and void. For example, South Carolina pointed to Article 4 of the U.S. Constitution, which reads, "No person held to service or labor in one state under the laws thereof, escaping into another, shall, in consequence of any law or regulation therein, be discharged from such service or labor, but shall be delivered up on claim of the party to whom such service or labor may be due, nor the states have passed laws that nullified federal laws that upheld this article of the compact. Thus, nor the states have deliberately broken the compact on which the Union was formed." So this is deep and complex, but at the end of the day, there was a break. And that break, well, there's more. And maybe I'll get into this next week. Maybe we'll do a part 3. Because the next part, or the other part that's around this, involves not just the Rothschilds, but also England and France as well. They're all part of this other deeper layer that is behind the noble lie, right? They're also part of the noble lie. And until we really pull back the layers on this thing and start to look at it for what it is, what it was, how it affected us, because you cannot build the foundation of something completely new on a noble lie. Because even the people that it ultimately benefited are existing in a hypothetical space. It's not even a real space. It's like they're a byproduct. It's kind of like being an adopted child, right? You're not the child that has been born out of two people coming together and share a bloodline and genetics and all that stuff, right? You're adopted. You came along with somebody else. And sometimes it works out well. Just ask Fred Van Fleet. His father was killed. This guy comes in, he's a police officer, comes into Fred's life, marries his mom, adopts him, gets Fred moving in a pretty straight direction in basketball. And I hope he's flopping tonight against my Warriors. But sometimes adoption works out just fine. Some of you might be adopted. Mother, father, love you like your own, right? But in this case, this is what it feels like. It's like, yeah, your freedom, your emancipation is really a byproduct of this other thing. And therefore, like, maybe we should revisit that. And if there is something here, right, it's the hypocrisy. It's the hypocrisy of the so-called liberated, progressive North that takes, it's the same hypocrisy, by the way, which ultimately manifests itself in the Democratic Party, liberal progressivism, which time and again has courted the black vote and time and again has generally let the black vote down. It's the same thing. It is based on a very similar relationship. It's a noble lie that's based on convenience and ultimately, I think, exploitation. And maybe that is at the heart of the grievance. Maybe it's not the so-called divide between white and black, which I believe has been exacerbated. But the story of liberation, this idea that certain people taking credit for something that they didn't really set out to do, maybe that's really at the heart of all of it. And maybe that is the collective resentment. It's like, bullshit. You weren't even really there to free us. You were just there to make sure these other people didn't go their own way. And you were there just to make sure that they were going to continue to pay the tariffs. And that we're just kind of a byproduct. We're a subplot in the main narrative of this group wanting to control another group. And maybe we need to have that discussion because clearly it gets played out over time through government. And the group that is a byproduct of this thing that happened for reasons that aren't really the reasons that are addressed, they're now exploited for, in some ways, very similar reasons. Vote for me and I'll set you free. It's a very interesting time to live. And if we can see this really from an astrological perspective, with Neptune and Aries, it is the ghost of the past that is arising. And we have all these players, right? Because it's starting to feel like a civil war all over again. Although the conditions are slightly different, they're inverted, but you got people that are willing to exploit it, just like they were willing to exploit this other war, right? Although this is like 21st century exploitation level. And I feel like this is what's happening. The ghost of the Civil War past, Neptune and Aries, is upon us. And if we don't stare it straight in the eye, if we don't have this discussion about the Civil War itself, we're going to miss a huge opportunity to potentially put this thing to bed instead of having dueling GoFundMes. That's an interesting sociological phenomenon, but at the end of the day, that's like kind of WWE compared to the mending of America's soul, because this is what this is about. All right, that's it for tonight. Thank you for being here. Thanks for hanging in the little blackout there. We'll be back next week, and I'm going to continue to go down this path a little bit. And I'm going to bring in sort of the conspiratorial meta stuff and how it actually, in some ways, is also being reflected in Trump and the tariffs and this story, tariffs with a capital T, Civil War, tariffs with a capital T, Donald T. Trump, right? Alberta, Canada in the north, right? Secession, United States, it's all there. It's all here. It's all cooking. It's all cooking. So come back next week, Sunday night. We'll go another layer deep, and I'm sure we'll have plenty more to talk about by the time that rolls around. In the meantime, hit like, subscribe if you're interested in reading. Come to my sites. You can sign up there. I have to redo some things that are connected to the connections to the website. And the new website is being built. I know I've said that it's being built, but it's being built as we speak. Anyway, we'll be back Tuesday with the astro weather. And in the meantime, you know what to do. Treat each other well, and I mean that wholeheartedly. Treat each other well. Take care of yourself. God bless you. Love you all. Robert Phoenix, signing off for now. Night.